Hi, everybody. It's Bob Ost. It's Friday. It's March, what is it, the 15th? Is that right? 15th. Yes, March 15th. He said, looking at his calendar. This is our Friday community gathering. This is Theater Resources Unlimited. For those of you who don't know us, we're an arts service organization that's dedicated to helping artists and producers understand the business of theater and navigate the business. Hopefully, you are interested in theater if you're here visiting us from YouTube or in our podcast land. We started this as a community service so that people wouldn't go crazy being in isolation. You remember isolation, everybody, right? So it was basically started off as a community service, and it was an interesting exercise for me. I was allergic to virtual. I was allergic to technology. But I overcame my allergies and my fears, and we started doing this. And suddenly I've had people coming into TRU from all over the country, all over the world, in fact. So we were very happy to have discovered the virtual world because of COVID. COVID did have some remotely positive things that happened. And now here we are, back in live performance. We're out of isolation. COVID is no longer considered as dire as it once was. And I have to get the screen back once again. This is going to be so hard to edit, guys. It's so hard. So, Merrie, turn off your sound.
Turn my sound off?
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything. I'm afraid it won't come back on.
I'm muting you. There you go. Okay, so we choose to believe that we're back in a normal world again. We choose to believe that things are as they used to be. The truth of the matter is, as everybody I think knows who's in the business, audiences have not returned to the extent that we had them prior to shutdown. So a lot of us are struggling. We're putting on a brave face, but we still need things to change and improve a little bit more. Now our conversations are dealing with more normal situations. And today we're going to be talking about, well, I think the overview of what we're going to talk about is a writer's relationship with producers. I think that's kind of the overview that I like to think of for this. We're going to be introducing a team of people, some of whom we knew before, and one of whom is newish to us. Although Heather, actually, I've known you for years. We've kind of emailed back and forth about various things, but I didn't know your company before. And we're going to basically talk about a play that has gotten optioned and is in development right now in a unique kind of situation. And one of the things we want to mention is that we have a program called the Writer-Producer Speed Date. Every time somebody's sound comes on, I get confused. Writer's Speed Date event that we do, we've been doing it for like 12 years or longer. And this one play that we're going to look at today did come through the Speed Date. And it's a very complicated situation. And rather than try to explain it, I'm going to actually bring on my guests today. I'm going to bring on Merrie Davis, producer, Heather Cohn from Colt Coeur Theater Company, Lia Romeo, who is, do you say Romeo or Romeo? Romeo.
Romeo.
Romeo, like Alpha Romeo.
Exactly. That's a good way to explain it.
Yeah, who's the playwright, and Jane Dubin, who one or two of you in the room today actually knows, who's also a producer. Jane, let's have you come on and explain the complexity.
Let's set the stage, right?
Let's set the stage. Set the stage. Yeah.
No pun intended. Hi, everybody. Love everybody that came. I have, I think, 9 or 10 of people from class and another half a dozen of former class students. So great to see you all, although I can't see you right now. I'm really excited for those of you who've known me for a while know that I've been a little bit down on theater until a few months ago when I met Lia Romeo and read her amazing play. And her play still is going to be produced by Colt Coeur Theater. And in order of appearance in this story, Lia comes first. She's the playwright. She wrote the play. Colt Coeur came next in the form first of Adrienne Campbell Holt, who is the co-founder and artistic director of Colt Coeur, and directed Lia's play last summer, and then brought it to New York for a reading, at which Merrie Davis attended and got very excited and suggested Lia join the speed date in November, and that's where I met Lia.
Suggest is a very gentle word for what happened.
And I met Lia, as did Blair Russell, and Blair and I chatted and thought it was an exciting opportunity, and approached Lia, who introduced us to her team at Colt Coeur, and then I met Adrienne and Heather, and then Blair met Adrienne and Heather, and we decided to all work together. And that's the very short version of something that happened very fast.
It's a short but ever so confusing version. Yes.
Yeah, but basically what we have now is a play that's being produced by a theater, Colt Coeur, in April, with partners, Jane and Blair as partners, and with supporters like Merrie and a couple of other people that are in the room today, who are part of what they're calling the producer circles and director circles, who have made major contributions to the theater in the efforts of getting a play up on its feet, which in these days is not an easy task. So that's set the stage. And then I would say, let's meet our panel, Bob.
Okay, so that's that. Yeah, this is where I can come in and say I'd like to start off and introduce Lia and Heather. If I'm trying to think who to start with. Lia, let's start with you. Let's start with the writer, because that's where everything does start, as Jane so wisely pointed out. It starts with the play. So how did you come to meet Colt Coeur? How did you become involved with them?
So let's see, I was working with Adrienne Campbell Holt, who's the director of this play and the artistic director of Colt Coeur. And I was at Juilliard last year and the year before doing their playwriting fellowship program. And sort of the culminating event of that program is that you have a workshop of a play where you work with a professional director and Juilliard acting students for a couple of weeks. And so I was working with Adrienne on that play. That was how I met her. That was a different play, not this one. But we had a great collaboration, both really liked working together. And then I had a workshop of this play still coming up with a different company. And I reached out to Adrienne to see if she might be interested in directing, because I wanted to work with her again. And she loved the script and was looking for a play to bring to Dorset Theatre Festival for their summer season, because Tim Daly was interested in doing a project up there. He had worked there previously, and so they were looking for a play that might be a good fit for him. And this play had a role that would work really well for him. So she said, do you mind if I share it with Tim and with Dorset? And I said, of course not, that's amazing. And they ended up picking it up really quickly. They were both excited about it. And then we brought Jane Atkinson on as well, who had also worked with Dorset previously and was also knew Tim from, they were friends for a long time from working together on other projects. So we did the show in Dorset last summer. It was great. They told me it was like one of the most successful shows they'd ever had, like really wonderful run. And we all knew that we really wanted to bring it to New York. So Adrienne and Tim and Jane and I basically just worked together and put up a reading in New York, and Merrie came to the reading along with some other people, and that's the part of how I got connected to Speed Date. But
I want to bring Heather on, because I want everybody to get to know a little bit more about Colt Coeur and her function at Colt Coeur. So tell us a little bit about your company. And how long it's been around, and you know, what kind of your mission might be, and how all of what Lia said really fit. It happened, guys. If you want to learn anything about from this, you know, the life lesson to take away is things happen. It's just the right time and the right place and the right people getting together. You can't always plan it, but it's great when it all works. So Heather, tell us about meeting Lia and bringing in her work
Sure.
and your company. I want to know about your company.
Okay. Thank you so much, Bob. It's nice to see you after, it's been many, many years. But my name's Heather Cohn, she, her pronouns. I'm the executive producer with Colt Coeur. Have been with the company just about half a year, so am pretty new. But the company has been around for 13 years now, doing really exciting, visceral new work in New York City. We like to say we do theater that pulls you close and doesn't let go. I think that is very true of Lia's beautiful play Still, and all the shows that Colt Coeur has done over the years. And a lot of the work that Colt Coeur does is new work that is developed with the company over time. We have an ensemble of 24 actors, designers, playwrights, directors, that often will take a piece that's been either commissioned or come from a company member and work through a very exciting sort of interactive, collaborative development process toward production. This one, as Lia said, is a little bit of a different origin story in terms of how the play came to Colt Coeur, which was really through Adrian Campbell Holt, who's our founder and artistic director and the director of this production. Did that answer the question?
That answers some of it. I mean, I want to go
Sure.
to some basics. First of all,
Sure.
I keep saying Coeur because I keep pronouncing it like the French. So you say Colt Coeur.
I mean, it is French. It is definitely French. I don't speak French, but yes, we say Colt Coeur.
Colt Coeur. So what does the name mean? How did you come to that name?
Well, so that's really, I think, the Adrian's story to tell, but as the founder, I will say I think that it really has sort of a visceral sense of Colt as the sort of the youth and energy when the company began. I think that was really important, and just the idea that the work that we do really speaks to the heart. And yeah, so it's
Well,
more an evocative name that than like meaning anything specific.
I also want to clarify something for the entire room, because the word "still" has been used many times, and I don't know whether you think it's part of a sentence, but it's actually the name of the play. So I want to go on record and just clarify for everybody that "Still" is the name of the play by Lia Romeo. So I wanted, since this is often used for educational purposes for my community so they understand things better, can you tell us a little bit about how people would become part of your company called Coeur? Are there opportunities for people to become part of it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there are opportunities. We actually have a resident artist program, and Lia is one of our residents this year, which is very exciting.
So I'll ask a tricky question. Was she a resident before Adrian brought in the play? Or is that how she came into the company?
So she applied along with, I want to say, about 80 other artists. We do an open submission process for the resident artists program. And then we have a wonderful sort of artistic planning committee that is made up of some company members and board members of Colt Coeur that sort of evaluate and review and then narrow down to finalists. So we knew Lia, and Adrian had worked with her, but she went through the same rigorous process as everyone. So we're very happy that she is a resident. But I believe, and Lia, correct me if I'm wrong, the timing of the decision to produce the play was after you were already on board as a resident artist.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure. I think it was after I was on board, but I'm not completely sure which of those happened.
The other thing I want to say, like bluntly to everybody, is that the business is all about relationships. So it never hurts to be to be known by a company when you submit to them, whether you're submitting as a play, or you're submitting as a member of the company. So do take away the idea that it's really matters to network and to get to know people.
Right.
So.
And just to add, yeah, our resident artist program, part of what makes it so exciting and I think different than a lot of other resident artists or residencies that at other companies is we have a mix of folks who are earlier on in their careers and, you know, more seasoned people of many productions under their belt. And it's not just a playwright residency. We have directors, designers, and that is a big part of you know, how Colt Coeur thinks about creating theater is that collaborative element. So that is true of our residency program as well.
Did you say where you're
Just
based?
a point of, I'm sorry, Bob. Word is that Lia was chosen before the decision to do still.
Okay.
That came from someone that knows.
Oh, okay.
We are in Brooklyn. We're a Brooklyn-based company, though we do produce in Manhattan. But we have a wonderful studio and office space in Dumbo in Brooklyn.
And remind me, where are you doing the production of this play?
Good question. We will be at the DR2 Theater in Union Square. So it's the small space in the Darrell Roth Theater complex.
And I am definitely going to make it a point to. Are we in conversation with you about doing a theater party?
In fact, we are. I've been in touch with Jay. I believe that TRU is hoping to bring a group of folks on Thursday, May 9th. We run April 13th to May 18th is the run. Thank you, Jane. Putting links in the chat. And yes, I believe the TRU group is slated for May 9th. And so there is certainly room to get in on that.
So I'm going to move to Merrie now because Merrie was the next step in this process. You saw the reading that they produced, right, of the play. Oh, you're muted. You have to unmute. Okay, she was right. She said if I mute her, she can't unmute herself. Sign language, perhaps. Okay, so you can't unmute yourself. Let me see if there's ask to unmute. I'm doing what I can on my side.
We go to speed date then?
Okay, we're going to move to speed date. So I know because I've heard this from Merrie. Merrie was enthralled seeing this play. She's totally in love with this play. And she emailed me and said, you've got to put Lia into the speed date. And I emailed back and said, well, have her submit. I don't know. That's the only way it can happen. She has to submit. So Lia did submit to speed date.
Unmute. I'm unmuted. I'm unmuted.
There you are. You see, it is possible to do.
I'm going to speak. Absolutely. Wait a second. I can't believe it. The whole time. All right. The thing that was great, it's so exciting just to watch this, to see how everything works together to make something happen, and how true the speed dating is so totally life-changing, because it was September 14th. I did homework to find out the date of when I had gone to the reading. And after the reading, I went to Lia to just tell her, I absolutely love the show. The writing was amazing. I also met Adrian that day too. And I found that I couldn't stop talking about it. I couldn't stop talking. I committed every little detail, every little touch point in the show. I was able to recite to somebody about what it was about. And I sometimes laugh because I can forget what I did yesterday, but for some reason that play just stayed with me.
And that's good news for you, Lia, because if Jane Atkinson has to take off a performance for any reason, Merrie can step in.
I could probably do it. And then it was a question of, I had mentioned that at the reading, I had mentioned to Lia about the speed dating event, which is really terrific. If nothing proves how well it can work and how fast it can work, this is the evidence. And then I checked with Bob to make sure she can get in, and that was the bottom line. I still continue to talk about still, and I think it's just amazing as to how powerful the producer speed dating event is, that more people should take advantage of it, because for it to be able to move within Jane and Blair had gone to see it and everything. It's a beautiful thing, and as I said, I think it's one of the most successful things, and I've been involved with it for a number of years. It's probably my most enjoyable thing is to watch writers start out and then come out with knowledge that they hadn't used before to be able to make something happen. And that's it. So, and I'm just happy.
And I'm not allowed to do a speed date when Merrie's not available. So I've been, she's
right.
she's in every one of them. I have a
Not-
context question for Heather. In terms of your company, first of all, I do want to ask you, I hate to ask this, but how are you affected by shutdown? How did you continue functioning during shutdown? And in general, now that you're coming back to live performance, what is your season usually consistent of? Is it one-offs? Do you have a planned season of like 2, 3, 4 shows? What is your structure?
Yeah, so again, being relatively new to the company, I can speak about what I know of the history, but I didn't actually experience, going through the pandemic with Colt Coeur. But like many companies, we shifted to a lot of exciting virtual programming, had a regular working artist group kind of throughout the whole time that was meeting monthly to continue developing and talking about work and working on stuff, and then had a couple virtual productions during that time, one that was originally going to be in person and shifted. And now that we are and we were fortunate to receive pandemic support, federal pandemic aid through the SVOG, and so we're able to get through that time, and we are now sort of doing two full production season, in addition to the development. And I didn't mention, we also do an arts education program that we do and have been doing since the beginning of Colt Coeur for middle school, public school students in middle school during their spring break. It's a really essential part of the company and the work, and have been able to provide that for free since the beginning. So really proud of that program as well. But yeah, now that we're back at 2 full show season, we actually just did a co-production with WP Theater in the fall, Bite Me by Eliana Pipes. And so that's what we're looking at now. And we are growing, in terms of just size, budget, capacity, and so it's an exciting time of growth, kind of, now that we are back to live theater.
And WP Theater, if anybody doesn't know it, it's women. It used to be called the Women's Project. Now it's just WP Theater. And now that you're mentioning it, I'm gonna email them. I'm gonna ask them to come on as guests. I love the company. I love what they do. So at this point, we've gotten from Lia and Adrian having working together to coming into Colt Coeur, to Colt Coeur deciding that it wanted to do a full production because gee whiz, golly, gosh, Tim Daly was available to do it. So yay, let's do it. And then you came to Speed Date, and through Speed Date, Blair Russell and Jane Dubin were able to become interested in your work, Lia. So my question to Jane and also to Merrie is, in the pitch itself, not the production, not seeing and reading, but in the pitch itself, what stood out for you about Lia? This is for people who are pitching or doing speed date with us all the time. What did she do that was unique or stood out?
Well,
Merrie.
Merrie had already met her, so I'll
Yeah,
I'll
Merrie.
jump
Yeah,
in
Merrie, you
first
had
here.
met her already. Yeah.
Well, I think my answer is going to be different than anyone else's because each of us who are on the receiving end of 22 pitches in a night are looking for different things. And first of all, she was very personable. She was very confident when she spoke. I don't know if she really was, but it sounded that way. And I had read materials beforehand, and I was aware that, I mean, Lia's very modest, but she has an amazing bio, and she has a lot of plays that have, you know, she's one of these playwrights that's going to break out and be amazing. I mean, she already is amazing, but you're going to hear about her for a long time. And so I was interested in meeting her. And she mentioned that the show had been in production at Dorset Theater. I happen to be familiar with Dorset. I've gone to a number of productions. And in fact, Jane Atkinson, another, you know, fortuitous connection here, was the reason I got to Dorset in the first place, because she performed in Anne, that I was a co-producer on Broadway. So that's why I went there. So I met Jane and I met Dorset Theater. And Lia just was very to the point. She had a very succinct description of her play and why she wrote it, and was very responsive to questions that I asked. And I'll be honest with you, I can't tell you exactly what we talked about, but I know that I was interested based on all of those things and based on the fact that I felt like there was a connection, that I wanted to know more. So I asked to read the script and I asked to meet her, and then we met, and she brought Adrian Campbell Holt with her, and we chatted. And the more I talked, the more I was interested. And the next time we talked, Heather, I think it was the next time Heather joined as well. And then Blair and I have known each other for a while. We've worked together on some things, including the fact that he teaches the foundations class to the master class that I teach for TRU. And he was at the same speed date. And I said, Blair, what'd you think of this play? And he's like, I really liked it. I talked to Lia, and I said, you want to do this together? And he's like, sure, this is great. He was all on board, and the rest is history. It all happened really fast. We first talked in, I think December, early December. We tried to get something in before the holidays. And then we've spent the last 3 months getting to know each other. You've heard people hear me say relationships. And Heather and Adrian were people who were familiar to me, but I didn't know them. And I think I was familiar to them, but they didn't know me. We had a lot of intersectional coincidences. And Heather has we didn't go into her bio, but her last job worked for someone that we all know, and at On Guard Arts, and we had a shortcut to getting to know each other. Yeah. So that's kind of it. In terms of what specifically, I can't say what specifically, which is why it was appealing. It wasn't like, oh, she checked this box. I keep saying at speed date, it's not about, getting certain things across. It's about making a connection that makes you want to continue the conversation. And that's what it was.
Bob,
Melissa had asked the next question I was going to ask, but now somebody put back into the chat the description of the play. People wanted to know more about what the play was about.
Bob, I'd like to respond because I did see it, so I'm coming from a different vantage point. The thing that I loved, and I said it to her after the show, after the play was over, was the fact that I have never watched a reading where I was trying to figure out how a writer can imagine all the things that they have to be doing to move those actors along in such a way that it's mind-boggling because the story, am I allowed to share the story a little bit? Sure, okay. The story starts out where you see a man and a woman, you don't know what their relationship is. It's in a room with just two chairs and that's it. And you don't know what took place prior. And they're just sitting there having coffee, relaxing, not necessarily interacting, but you don't know to what. And then all of a sudden it starts to get warmer and you're aware they had a relationship, but you don't know to what extent. And the next thing you know, it's getting very intimate and some clothes are coming off. And you know, there's an intimate period of time at that moment. And then they're talking.
This may be more plot than we need.
Oh, no, wait, just what? What?
Seriously, leave something for the audience
Okay. Well, the piece I'll just leave with it, I won't say it, is what she did at the end to this moment. We'll not know what happens at all because of how she moved things around in the words. It was phenomenal. And as I said, anybody who would listen, I was sharing the story with it because it was one of the best pieces of writing that I've ever seen.
And I just want to pull out what CJ Chris says. It seems like a confluence of factors. Exactly. I mean, I'm always looking for lessons that people can pull out of these things. There's not a specific lesson here other than the fact that networking and knowing people is always helpful in this business, in any business. And sometimes the stars just align. It was a confluence of factors, but it happened. The other takeaway for everybody is that it can happen. Just remember that it can happen. So
Bob, could I add one little thought to that? Is that all right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think, yes, the confluence of factors and the timing, I think it also, because we were able to have that reading in September, I know that like I am sent a lot of plays and I'm the producer. Adrian gets so many scripts all the time. So having the opportunity and a space where somebody could actually like see the work on its feet and the way, theater's intended was, I think, very helpful in getting some of these wonderful supporters like Merrie, on board early. And so just for what that's worth for folks who are, writers on this call.
But the other thing that's important about that is when you have a reading, have a goal as well, and make sure you know why you're doing it, and make sure you invite the right people for that goal. And there can be different goals. There can absolutely be different goals. I just had a conversation with somebody about table reads and readings, and one of the absolute necessary reasons to do that is development. Is basically to hear your play and to learn about your play. And to hear it with an audience tells you a little bit more. But once you reach a point where you feel that it's ready, then you have to go back to what I was saying before. You have to know people. You have to reach out to the people you know and invite the right people to see it. In this case, Merrie happened to be one of the right people. And it didn't hurt, but you can't.
And the casting was excellent. Some of the readings I'm going to, I have never seen. They've been fabulous because of the casting. Many cases in the past, people didn't care about that as much, or it seems not to be. But now, if you have the right quality people playing the right roles, it moves that along so differently than prior.
So we didn't establish this. Were Jane Atkinson and Tim Daly in the reading?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that another lesson. Cast Tim Daly and Jane Atkinson in your play. There you go. That's something anybody can do.
Big lesson here. That's my big takeaway, is just cast them in everything forever.
Yeah. Can we go back to Lia? I'd love to hear the origin story of the play. Like what prompted you to write it? Because that popped for me. People hear me say, why this play, why now? But why are you the one to write it? And I think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I wrote the play to try to figure out some questions that I did not know the answers to, which I have found is where all my best plays come from. Like when I write a play because I know something and I want to communicate this thing I know to other people, the play ends up being very didactic and not organic feeling. Whereas when I'm really trying to wrestle with something and figure it out, the play ends up being a lot better. In this case, I spent many years married to someone who I disagree with politically. And I wrestled with, and I'm still wrestling with, questions about how much that matters. And one of the taglines for the play is like, what happens when you love someone but you hate some of the things that they believe? And this is a question that I am trying to figure out, and have been trying to figure out in my own life. And I still don't know the answer, but some of the arguments in the play are literally arguments that I have had with my husband. And, you know, just trying to use the writing to work through, you know, what's going to happen to these characters and where are they going to land on this question and where am I going to land on this question? And that's where it came from.
And if I'd like to point out that actually was the through line for three or four seasons of The Good Fight. That was very much a theme that was part of that show, that TV show.
Oh, interesting. I have not seen it, so I'll have to look that up.
You may want to watch. Well, you have to watch the whole season because the arc of it goes through like 4 or 5 or 6. I don't even 5 seasons maybe. But her relationship with her husband is always influencing the storylines that are happening.
Yeah, and so I think too, Bob, that, you know, just to one more thing about what was appealing to me when we met was also the subject matter of the play, and knowing, you know, if there is a person in this room who hasn't come across someone important in their life, whether friend, relative, relationship, who is of who's whether knowingly or surprisingly is of an opposite political persuasion, I challenge you to go out into the world, because you haven't been in the world. In the last 8 years or however, we've been so politically polarized, and a play that deals with it in a way that also has comedy in it, allows you to laugh. You don't have to be, you know, I thought was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. I want to keep knowing some more. So I think it's really timely as well.
I want to turn to some of the specifics of the business of theater, and how this all works. And
that's when this.
Whoops!
Heather has to exit now. Yeah, I said, and at that moment, this is when Heather has to go. But I'll try to answer as much as I can.
Okay. So Heather, thank you, and I respect your time, and I thank you for giving us the time that you did give. I hope to see you and hope to talk to you soon.
Thank you so much, and look forward to seeing many of you at the show. Thanks, Jane, for talking business.
Yeah, we're going to talk business. We're going to talk a little business. So Lia, what was the agreement that you had? Was the first agreement with Adrian, or was it with Colt Coeur?
So yeah, I have a contract with Colt Coeur. That's like via my agent. That's the agreement that I have. And then I believe Colt Coeur and Jane and Blair have a separate agreement.
Okay, so basically they took an option on the play, or is it different than an option? There are various kinds of agreements that people can have. And I know I don't want to push if it's too personal for you, but I do think people are interested in knowing what the agreements look like.
Yeah, I mean, what it is for this production is just like a basic production contract. It's not, I don't think it's an option because it is a production that is happening, versus an option. I think it's just like the opportunity to do or refuse a production. So yeah, it's a production contract.
Well, one of the things
it's an author's agreement. It's an author's agreement that Lia has with Colt Coeur, you know, with the stating they're going to do a production at this time, you know, with some leeway if something happens, you know, that they can produce it, and you know.
So there is something in it that talks about a future production, the ability to do a future production, but there's no obligation in it. It's not a difficult contract for us to understand, or there aren't any. Okay, so next up is, how did you create an agreement with Colt Coeur to come on board? Jane, you and Blair, and also Merrie, I guess. I'm not sure. I know you
Merrie
and Blair as a team.
Yeah, Merrie is a very generous donor to the production, to the company.
It's called the Director's Circle. I'm in the director's.
Right. Blair and I, and this is, there's a comment about this is a for-profit production, right? No, it is not a for-profit production. Colt Coeur is a nonprofit theater company, and they are producing it. Blair and I have an agreement with Colt Coeur. We are providing financial support as well as co-producer support. So we are, for example, we are sponsoring an industry night. We are providing marketing support. We attend marketing meetings and press meetings as if we were co-producing. But this is a Colt Coeur production. They're staffing it. They're casting it. They're casting the understudies. They're handling all the production. We're basically advisors to the show, and we have a separate agreement
So
to that effect.
Again, I don't want to say anything out of school or anything.
I
but
won't let you.
I know you won't. So there's no agreement with you, Lia, and the play for future development. It's all about right now. It's what's happening now, with the hope that something will help happen next.
Well,
Or
there
is
are
there-
some
there's
things in
no-
the contract about potential future development, but
Well,
there's
yeah,
nothing
there-
that is like guaranteed to happen.
Okay.
Right. There, it's in essence, if we were using English and not theater speak, we have an ability to move the play forward. We don't have the obligation to do that. And Lia has given us permission to be the ones to move the play forward if we all work out, obviously what's most important in any kind of relationship is the relationship. And, so far it's so good. It's been great. We're working together really well. If for some reason one of us doesn't want to work with the other, then we wouldn't do that, because what's the point? But Lia has included us as potential future partners. Colt Coeur has included us as potential future partners to work, to give us permission to do a commercial production. This is a nonprofit production. There's also the possibility that we could, all partner together with another larger nonprofit. We don't have that determination yet. We have to see, obviously, how things go.
Well, one of the things that
and-
writers always ask, and they're always concerned about, is whether they're giving away any future participation when they sign an early contract. And in this case, it sounds like that's not the case. So-
Could clarify? I'm not quite sure I understand the question.
Okay, well, let's talk about like a regional theater. A regional theater does a show. Sometimes what they do is they get a percentage of the future of the show. You haven't given away a percentage of the future. I wouldn't have this conversation if it weren't for the fact we're in a room full of playwrights. So you haven't given away future participation, future royalties or anything like that.
Well, I mean, I think I have in that, I think. I don't.
Let me
remember
help you here.
the
Yeah,
contract.
let me
Yeah,
help you
me out,
here.
but-
Yeah,
Because I think that's pretty standard.
Yeah, I think the answer is it depends. It depends on, when something happens, if it's a transfer of this production versus some later production. And that's all of that is, there's nothing unusual about the terms of anything. There's nothing outrageous about the terms of anything. And what it does is, particularly this, I think this is an unusual arrangement where you had a production and then with the director who brings it to New York and such, that they're respecting the relationship. Anytime the theater company is creating value in a play, whether it's a commercial production, nonprofit production, there's generally some sort of recognition of that. This is more than a 3-weekend run. This is 5, potentially 8-week run at a theater that, even though it's a 99-seat theater, it's considered like a prestige theater. So it's all the awards people come to see the show and things like that. So so there's some value that Colt Coeur will get from having produced it. Oh my God, we just lost Lia.
We lost Lia. What happened? Well,
I don't know.
She's
Hopefully
going
she'll
out
come
to sell
back.
her show. She's going out to sell her show. As she should.
Yeah.
So I was just about to ask you something when she disappeared. I guess what people well, let me just ask Jay. Have there been any questions that I've been missing? I know Carolyn Brown has one right now. Oh, Jay's here. Oh, Jay's coming on. If that was Lia. Okay.
Yeah, there was a question about live streaming, and at this point, I don't know that there's any plans to live stream.
And Carolyn
Yeah,
Brown was asking, how
Jeff
does
had-
the producer circle and donations work in this case, since this is a nonprofit production?
Well, it works because it is a nonprofit production. So basically, and I can speak both for this production, but also as the board chair of Houses on the Moon, where we just did a production, is when nonprofit theater companies are financing their shows, they finance through donations and grants and ticket sales. So Colt Coeur has a very wonderful program to recognize significant donors, so that there are benefits that come with supporting they go out and try to get people who either know the play or be interested in supporting the play, in return for which the donors get recognized and have certain benefits. So Merrie is a very important member of the director circle, and the Colt Coeur will be doing certain events connected to the show, and the director circle and producer circle members will have the opportunity to meet the cast. They have the opportunity to come to opening night and various events during the course of the year. So, and there are grants that have been secured. There are other donors that, hey, $25 is a great donation as well, because every dollar counts for nonprofit theater companies, especially in these times. But that's how that works. A commercial production doesn't have that opportunity to just take donations unless they're partnered with a nonprofit.
Which happens. I mean, we've fiscally
Which
sponsored
happens,
companies.
yes.
We've fiscally sponsored the not-for-profit stream of income for a commercial production in the past. Lia, I have to tell you, I just really went through a oh my God, what did I say moment.
I'm so sorry, my computer just shut down randomly. I have no idea why, but it seems to be working again.
Maybe it objected to my questions. Okay.
Maybe.
So Jay, you were going to give us some questions that maybe were asked earlier, because I don't have I can't scroll through. I know that Melissa wanted to.
I was not, but Ross is here to do that, and I think he's been monitoring that.
Oh, so Ross,
yes.
Do we have any? Yes.
I'm
not hearing you, Ross.
Yeah. Wait, can you hear me at all?
Now I can.
Okay, you can. Okay, cool. So it was asked, will live stream at all? I'm not sure if that was answered.
Jane basically said no, but
okay.
No,
Lia,
I
you
don't
may know
believe
more.
that there are any plans. There are no plans that I know of to live stream. It's not a simple process. It's also an expensive process. So no. There is a question of Lia, why don't you? The question was how have you had other plays produced? But why don't you talk a little bit about your prior experience with other plays?
Yeah, I've had a lot of plays produced. And to the points we were making earlier about factors coming together at the right time. I've been doing this for a long time, and I've been just very slowly, making connections and working on things and making progress in the industry. And I think when I was younger, I kind of felt like, something's just going to happen, and that's just going to be my big break. And I'm going to know that when that happens, and, that's going to be it. And now I kind of feel like it's more just like an accumulation. You do one thing and it leads to another thing, and it leads to another thing and another thing. And then eventually, exciting things start happening. You start getting the opportunity more often to work with people who you're really excited to work with. So yeah, I've been having plays done regionally and at small theaters for 15 years, 14 or 15 years now. And then had a play at the O'Neill a few years ago, and then that was kind of the first like higher profile thing, and then got into Juilliard, which was also an exciting thing for me career-wise. And so I'm excited to see, you know, what comes from this production and what else comes my way on the other side of that.
Yeah, and I want to point out something, because we were chatting about this a little earlier. You know, when we met at Speed Date, Lia had this production already scheduled, and there were some people who said, "Oh, well, she's already got a production," and you know, and they moved on to someone else. And you know, the question comes up like, why would you come to Speed Date if you're already in production? Well, this would be why, one possibility, but the other thing is, and we talk about this all the time afterwards, that even if you have a play that's, you know, you're scheduled to go to Broadway with, you have so many other things that you do, and it's about forming the relationship. And so, you know, I was intrigued by the fact that Still had been at Dorset and was going to production, but I was also intrigued by Lia as a playwright, knowing that she had all these other plays, and had some history of having gone through the process. That's important to me. So, you know, it may not be this play that's interesting to you, but there'd be other plays that are interesting to a producer. So, you know.
And sort of reiterate a subtext here. Basically, when you pitch in Speed Date, you're not pitching a play, you're pitching your play and yourself. It's so important to remember that you're pitching yourself. This play may, as Jane is saying, the play that you're pitching may not be the one that the producer is interested in, but they're interested in you. The writers who are in the room now who pitched this past Sunday, it was a very good group, and the producers were very impressed with the level of the pitches. So guys, congratulations to all of you who I don't even know who's here. I don't have the whole list in front of me. Okay, so we know we've covered has the playwright. So any other questions from the room, guys? Let us know. Raise a virtual hand. Well, actually, yeah, you can raise a virtual hand. That'll be okay. What happens when you raise a virtual hand now with Zoom is that you come up on screen. Your virtual hand comes up on the screen. Very useful.
Well, maybe that virtual hand could help me, because the sun just came out where I am and I'm blind.
I know. I can see you blinded. I can see.
We got one. How did you find your director?
Or vice versa.
Yeah, so Adrian and I worked together at Juilliard, and the way that came about was that I had an opportunity to just make a list of directors I was interested in working with on the play I was working on there, which was not this play. And I used that as a chance to make a list of people who I had not worked with before and was interested in connecting with, because I felt like, you know, a lot of people would be interested in working at Juilliard. So this might be a chance to, you know, connect with some directors whose work I admired, but who didn't know me yet. And Adrian was one of those directors. I had seen things she directed and thought they were great. And so she ended up being available, and we worked together on that process. And then she ended up bringing this play to Dorset. So she was attached as the director because she had a prior relationship with the theater. She directed there previously. I did not have a relationship with the theater.
That's great.
Yeah.
Merrie,
Another lesson learned.
Yes,
Merrie,
You don't get anything if you don't ask.
That's right.
Oh.
Absolutely. What makes a good pitch for you when you're watching this? You've only seen about 600 of them by now.
42,021. I would say, number one, someone who's not reading it because I want to see the excitement in their face and when they're talking. When somebody really believes in something, you don't have to read it. It's just, you wrote it, you feel it, and just let it come across. Someone who really asks questions and wants to know what the next steps are. In other words, there's some people who just perform. I think it's partly, it's chemistry. A lot of it's chemistry in terms of how warm and friendly somebody is. I look for that. And I look for someone because if I think to myself, if I'm going to be working with someone and you hope it's a long run, you want to work with people that you really like and that really, have an understanding. And that's,
Let's put an underline under that one. A producer getting involved with a writer is a long-term commitment. I mean, it could be 8 years, 8 years or even longer.
I like to accelerate it faster, but that's okay. But
So-
it's the knowing and the feeling, and when somebody believes in it, it comes through. When a writer believes in what they're talking about and what they have to share, it totally comes through to me. And then it's a subject.
So Paul Kirby, you have a virtual hand up. Is it tired now?
Yeah, very much. Question, if you're pitching a musical to a one of these speed dating situations, should you bring recordings of some
No.
of the songs?
I can just say no. There's no room for recordings. You have 2 minutes to pitch when you go to speed date. People always want to bring recordings, and it's an absolutely not. We will not allow it. You don't have to win them over with your music in a speed date. You just have to win them over with you and with the idea of your show. And if they're interested, they'll ask for the recordings.
Okay.
So
Yeah, the other thing is for Paul and for others as well. If you know your play well and you can articulate what your play is about and why, and get someone else excited about it, that's a plus. One of the things that is a negative is somebody describing their play by talking about the plot endlessly, and they use up all their time talking about the plot, but they haven't communicated what the play is about. And that's, to me, is very essential, because if in fact you go to production, the playwright is going to be asked over and over again. The producer is going to be asked over and over again. The producer, like, why do we need this play? And as a producer and trying to raise money or sell tickets, you have to be able to articulate the why. And so when a playwright at this stage can articulate that in a couple of sentences and give you the sense of oh, okay, I'm interested, that's great. You don't need 5 hours to describe the play. You need a couple of sentences if you can do that, because it's harder to speak. As I ramble on, it's harder to say something in a short period of time. It's harder to say something in 3 sentences that people normally say in three pages. So that's a really important element.
The other thing to bear in mind, everybody, is that in a 2-minute pitch, a producer or anybody who's listening to your pitch has only a limited amount of brain width to understand what you're saying. If you start telling them about 10 or 15 characters in your play and 7 or 8 plot points, you've lost them. It just has to be very quick, and it can't be every detail, and you can't go away from it going, oh, I didn't really explain it well enough. You probably explained it well enough. You probably did. They know if they're interested or not in 20 seconds.
Bob, I'd like to just add one thing that I think is really important, is that if anybody has had any success at all with their show, whatever it is, whatever it may be, that should come right at the beginning, because what that does it instantly puts you heads and shoulders above the competition. So if your play has had a reading, if it had a write-up, if something happened with it, you talk about that just by saying, by the way, the play had already been shown to, and whatever, and then you go into what you have to talk about. But that's really important, because a lot of people have had not any success. They have not had any showing whatsoever. And so all of a sudden, if you're deciding, do you want to get involved with someone who has been out there and has had something, it changes the dynamic instantly.
So voice of God, Ross, we have a whole slew of questions now.
Oh boy, we do. Yes.
But let me just ask Jane, Merrie, and Lia whether you have a little bit more time.
Sure.
I'm fine. Yeah.
I can stay for a few minutes and then I do have to drop.
Okay.
I've got like 10 minutes.
So there's many questions. So what are we going to do? Start with them, Ross. Do them one at a time.
Okay. Lia, how much do you like or not being involved in the play's production?
For me, it depends. When it's a first production or like a first New York production, I like to be very involved. For later productions, I would probably be less involved, but for a premiere or an early production, I like to go to, not every rehearsal, but many of the rehearsals, and I'm usually like making script changes throughout the process. And, very much like the script is not like, here's my beautiful play, now go put it on. It's very much like a living document that changes based on feedback I get from the actors and director in the room. So I'm pretty involved.
Let's underline that for everybody. Lia, I rarely hear a writer say that and understand that as well as you seem to have. Yes, it's not, here's my play, put it on. It's, here's my play, let's work together. So thank you
And
for that.
that, by the way, is part of, for me, when I'm looking at who I might potentially work with, knowing that someone's been through the process, knowing that someone has been in a position where other people are making comments and trying to talk about how the play is produced, and having survived that process as a playwright is a positive. So they're not completely gobsmacked when they come in and people have opinions about your play, and they know how to deal with it. And I think that's really important. And particularly in this case, Lia has already worked with this director and with this cast. So there's already a camaraderie. The fact that Tim and Jane both wanted to come back and do the play again, without even having to ask them, obviously it was a good experience, or they wouldn't put themselves through it.
I guess it's a couple questions for me. How do you suggest that those of us who participate in the speed date pursue a relationship with producers, especially if we felt there was some interest expressed? It's not the answer you want to hear, but basically the producers may be very interested in you and in your play when you're pitching it to them. More often than not, the producers that come to speed date are involved in numerous projects, and I make it clear to them that we don't expect them to option a play out of speed date. I don't even expect them to request a follow-up meeting or to request a script, but some of them do. I would say that about 50% of the producers do follow-ups with some of the people that pitch. And historically, Don, the success rate of total speed dates, the success rate is 100%, because the only thing that we expect from a speed date is for writers to learn about their play, learn how to pitch, and learn the producer's point of view and how producers see their work, which for many of them is life-changing. So that's the 100% success rate. In terms of how many plays have been optioned out of speed date, none. Okay, none have been optioned out of speed date. Relationships have been formed from speed date. Producers have read scripts. Producers, very early on, Randall Reagan was very interested in a writer, but it had no interest at all in the play that the writer was pitching. Randall requested everything the writer had written, and they developed a friendship. He didn't wind up producing him, but relationships are also important. And a relationship with one producer can also lead you to people that they know. So I think I judge the success rate different than a lot of writers might.
Yeah, let me add something, Bob. There's no harm if a producer has said during the course of it, get in touch with me, or I want to have contact with you. If you have a prior relationship of some kind, or if you have their email address and you have a mailing list, please you can put people on their mailing list. Understand that for those of us who are in the industry who've been around a while, I mean, I personally get 300 to 400 emails a day, and a lot of them are junk. And Verizon talks to me constantly, as does Optimum and all the other people who are hawking products. But I can't answer every one. But the same way when I send out emails, I'll run into someone 6 months later and they'll tell me something like, oh, it was so exciting what happened with such and such. It doesn't mean we don't read them. It just means we don't have time to respond to everything. And so if you have a mailing list, put people on the mailing list. put TRU on the mailing list. If you have something happening, send the information in, send it to your college newspaper or your high school newspaper, or newsletter or whatever, and just get the word out there. And somebody's reading it. They just may not be acting on it at that moment. And then somewhere down the line, you may run into them in some other format, or, or even more significantly, you may be doing something that's not, I'll use myself personally, it's not my thing, but I might say, oh my God, this is so Merrie Davis. And I'll tell Merrie about it. And, or this is so, Joe Schmo. So you don't be afraid to just put information out there, but don't be offended if it's not responded to, because not everybody can do what it is that you want them to do at that very moment.
Bob,
I just want to correct one thing I said. Blair Ross actually did option a piece that was pitched to him in 2021, a show called Salem, and he started the development process this past fall, back in November, I think. So 3 years later,
he did a reading he did a reading of the play, and one of the people who starred in the play is one of the actors in Village of Vale. So it was fun.
Oh, I didn't know
to see her
that.
again.
So,
Yeah, Giselle
and
Jimenez.
the other thing about success, what you guys might consider success, relationships. Many people have started relationships with producers. They become friends. They become people have been mentoring them. So the relationships have come out of Speed Date frequently. I just can't say, oh, how many shows got produced because of Speed Date. I don't know how to. I wouldn't know how to answer that. Ultimately, there may be many more than I'm even aware of, because not everybody tells me what happens.
hey, Bob, I'd like to share a story. There were a few fellows, this is about 2 seasons ago, I guess, or a season ago, that pitched, it was a holiday show. I loved the guys. I thought they were terrific. I'm not personally interested in holiday shows per se, but what I said to them was that I was going to introduce them to a lead producer, someone who's been around for a very long time. And we had discussions on the phone. I had on the phone on Zoom. I talked to them first, and then we all got together. And the bottom line was, it helped them. They didn't buy into it, but we gave them a lot of feedback, and they found somebody else who was putting it on. So you're talking about relationships. It's like, you never know who you're talking to, and you never know. There's lots of really nice people who are going to take the time to try to piece things together, even if they're not doing it on that particular one. And I ran into them at something.
Was this the Hanukkah musical?
I love the guys. I think they're
I
gonna.
remember. Yeah,
And
yeah. There's a show that actually had a lot of success out of Speed Date in many ways.
yeah, but they needed help, and they needed casting. There's a lot of things. The point was that
Yeah, I met with them too.
they were terrific, and they're going to go
They're-
far. And I
they're very
ran
fun.
into them again, and they keep me apprised of what they're doing, because you never know. I mean, you change the holiday season to something else, I might be there. Yeah.
And Arlene Corsano, that's Amy Stoller. She's not talking about the Speed Date. We also have another workshop we do, which is called a Writer-Director Communications Lab, which I'm going to make happen this year. It's hard to put these things together, but I'm determined to have that happen. Writers submit the plays. I get 8 to 10 directors who come on board and commit to doing the workshop. They read all of the submissions. You don't submit the whole place. Submit 10 pages and a summary. The directors read them, and they pick their first, second, and third choice. We put people together. That has a high success rate. That, I would say that 6 out of 10 shows, the writers and directors go on to at least work together, often with the show that they worked on in the workshop. We're a dating service. What can I tell you?
You should only be.
I think that
we have to let Lia go, because she has another obligation here.
Yes, thank you.
It's great.
Thanks for joining us, Lia. And TRU's group outing to Still, I believe, is May 9th.
Awesome.
But the play runs April 13th to May 18th, at least. And so if you can't come May 9th, come another time.
Thank you all
So
so much.
guys, thank you, Lia. Thank you, Jane. and thank you, Merrie, and thank you to everybody in the room as well. I want to thank, we had such a good turnout today. So community, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah,
Those
thanks,
of you
everybody.
outside are just, those, I'm saying my closing remarks now. So those of you out there in YouTube land and in podcast land who have stumbled upon us, I hope you found us interesting. We are an organization that's dedicated to help people understand the business of theater and the arts in general. We actually have meetings every week that deal with things that have to do with film and music and things other than theater. If you'd like to be in the room and you'd like to ask questions and be part of the conversation, I can make that happen. You just email me at trunltd@aol.com, trunltd@aol.com, and put Zoom in your headline. So put in your subject header. Make me laugh. Do something funny about Zoom. And I will email you every week and invite you to these, and you'll become part of the community as well. If you'd like to help us survive financially, we let everybody in for free if they want to come for free, and certainly if they're members, we let them in for free. If you want to help us, if you want to support us, don't let me stop you. Go to TRU Donate, trudonate.com. It's trudonate.com. Give us whatever you can, it would be welcome. Or you can join as a TRU member. That's another way that you can support the work that we do. Got interesting things coming up in the next 2 weeks. Next week, we're going to have a conversation with the son of Eileen Heckert, who, those of you who don't know who Eileen Heckert is, you should. She's one of the legendary actresses in theater and movies. And we're going to talk to her son, Luke Yankee, about what it was like being raised as the son of a movie star. And then 2 weeks from now, we're going to be doing, a friend of ours, Brent Buell, brings theater into prisons. So we're going to talk about that work that he does and the fact that his story about bringing theater into prisons has been made into a film starring Coleman Domingo. So a lot of interesting things, hopefully. Come back, join us again, and thank you all.